Each week on Culinary Confidential, Christina Cates, a seasoned foodie who has worked at some of New York City's top restaurants, will share her passion for the culinary world. Whether you're a professional chef, a restaurant enthusiast, or a lover of good food, Christina dives into the heart of hospitality, exploring the trends, triumphs, and challenges facing the food service profession. And you won't want to miss her chats with some of the most interesting and influential industry voices. And now, please take your seat at the table as Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates starts now, exclusively on AM 970. The Answer.
Welcome to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates. This show is produced in association with my incredible friend, Lucas A. Ferrara. Tonight's show is all about love. Now, let me explain. Both of my guests this evening have published books about their favorite secret ingredient, love, in their cooking. My first guest this evening is Justice Alan Page. You probably know Alan most famously for his time in the NFL. Alan played professional football as a defensive tackle for the Minnesota Vikings and Chicago Bears for 15 years. He was the NFL's MVP in 1971 and was elected to the Pro Hall of Fame in 1988. Alan Page also served as an associate justice for the Minnesota Supreme Court from 1993 until 2015. In 2018, President Trump awarded Alan the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the nation's highest civilian honor, and it's presented to individuals who have made exemplary contributions to the prosperity, the values, or security of the United States, world peace, or other significant societal, public, or private endeavors. Alan is joining the show tonight because he recently published a children's book along with his daughter, Kamie, called Baking Up Love. Baking Up Love is a touching story of family, memory, and connection, where in the book, Grandpa and Esther honor Grandma's legacy by baking cupcakes with her secret ingredient, love. Later in the hour, I'll be joined by Chef Richard Ingraham. Chef Richard has truly had an impressive career. He's known for blending his passion for culinary arts with a deep understanding of sports nutrition. He's been featured regularly on top national media outlets like Oprah.com, Fox News, US Weekly, Essence, People, E!, and more. He's renowned for his role as a personal chef to basketball pro Dwyane Wade and his family, as well as for his leadership in the private chef industry. Chef Richard's approach isn't just about fueling athletes. It's about creating culinary experiences that nourish both body and soul. Chef Richard is out with a new cookbook called Love, My Love Expressed Through Food. In Love, Chef Richard not only shares with readers his favorite recipes, but also takes us into a deep dive into how food is an integral part of the human experience. He strongly believes in the power of food, having personally witnessed its ability to revive relationships, declare love, and interweave cultures. More on Chef Richard later in the hour. Alan Page, welcome to Culinary Confidential.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So you're out with this exciting new children's book called Baking Up Love. Let's talk about it. I have kids. I have 2 little boys. So this hits home for me because I'm constantly encouraging them to read. And, I'm going to read this book with them, that's for sure, especially because they love cooking in the kitchen with me. So tell me, what inspired you to write Baking Up Love?
Well, it's just that. It's the time that I spend with my grandchildren in the kitchen, baking or cooking, and my daughter and I, co-author, have done a number of children's books. This is number 5, and we thought it was time that we sort of talked about, our experience in the kitchen.
How many grandchildren do you have?
I have 4. They're now 2 13-year-old girls and 2 16-year-old boys.
Wow.
But over the years, we've spent a lot of time in the kitchen together.
I love it. Can you describe the story of Baking Up Love? Can you share that story on the air here?
The story is about reading and literacy, and little girl comes home from school expecting to find her mother at home because they've got to bake some cupcakes for a literacy feast that they're having at school the next day. The mother had to stay late at work, so Grandpa, who is in the living room snoozing, becomes her go-to person to try to get the cupcakes baked. And she's not so sure that Grandpa knows what he's doing in the kitchen, but together they put the ingredients together along the way. They dance, they sing, they eventually end up hugging the bowl to put a little love in the batter.
What a special story. Can you share how the themes of love and legacy are woven throughout the story and what you hope maybe readers will take away from it?
Well, it's a story about a number of things, intergenerational families. It's about loss, the thing that the grandmother who passed on is still included in their family by way of, the grandmother was the one who taught everybody to cook. And now we have her legacy continuing on through the grandfather, the mother, and granddaughter.
That's great. I get a lot of family dynamics and traditions are involved in this book. Can you share with us any family rituals that go on in your family, things that you like to cook together?
Oh, absolutely. Every holiday season, all 4 grandchildren come over and we do holiday cookies. Our specialty is sugar cookies, but we also do, it's basically crushed up Wheaties and chocolate.
Ooh, what's not to like about that?
Well, exactly. And the kids absolutely love them. We have, here in Minnesota, it's around Christmas time. It's a little cold.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And we have a room, a little solarium off our living room, and it turns into the cookie castle because that's how we keep our cookies fresh. Is we put them outside, and given the temperatures, they stay fresh throughout the season.
That's great. How do we foster reading in children more?
Well, one way to do that is we read to them.
Yeah.
We share books with them. And our picture books, our children's books are ideal for that. We've worked with an incredible illustrator, David Geister, who has been involved with us in each of our books. And we've really been fortunate to have him, but his illustrations are just spectacular.
So
and so you share that with children. You get them to read to you. Now that my grandchildren are older, they have various assignments in school, and now I find myself reading the books that they're reading, either for school or for pleasure.
Right.
And then sort of being able to talk about them and share what we learn from them, share what we get out of them. I think, reading is such a benefit to all of us because it can satisfy our curiosity. It helps us explore without having to go anywhere, and it teaches us how to think.
You know what's great? I just did a show last week with Dr. Ian K. Smith, and he was talking to me about, ways to basically stay healthy throughout your life, whether you're in your 30s, your 50s, your 60s, or beyond. And part of that is keeping your mind sharp, and reading is the best way to do that.
Absolutely. Just by its nature.
Yeah.
It forces you to do that. It gives you ideas and you have to think about them, and it keeps you curious. It keeps you engaged.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So what I loved about this book was that it was diverse. The characters are diverse. My children are diverse. They are Italian, they're Irish, they're Bayesian, they're Jamaican, they're Panamanian. They have a lot in their blood. So when I give them a book like this, they feel like, there's a connection there. So are your other books that you've written, like in your portfolio, are they as diverse as Baking Up Love?
Oh, absolutely. I'm featured in 3 of them, actually 4 of them. The children that we use as models, they come from all different backgrounds. This whole thing about diversity, it's who we are.
Right.
It shouldn't have to be exceptional. We should be able to see ourselves, whoever we are, in the world around us, including the books that are available to us.
That's great.
And so Kamie and I think it's important that our books reflect the world, the actual world around us, not some world doesn't really exist.
Mm-hmm. So I talked a little bit earlier in the intro about your background, your football career, and your time as a Minnesota Supreme Court Justice. Can you tell me, how did playing football prepare you for your career as a Supreme Court Justice in Minnesota?
Well, I think the qualities that are required of a professional athlete to be a good professional athlete are qualities that are necessary to do anything well. Mm-hmm. It's being able to focus on the task at hand, being able to think on your feet, being able to respond to the situation that's in front of you, being able to think through what you're looking at and then making a decision. Mm-hmm. All of those qualities, whether you're on the football field or in the courtroom, are equally valuable.
That's fantastic. Now, the proceeds from Baking Up Love support Minnesota Youth of Color through the publisher, the Page Education Foundation. Can you tell us more about the foundation and how it helps students pursue higher education?
Yes. Back in 1988, my late wife and I started the Page Education Foundation with the goal of encouraging, motivating, and assisting Minnesota's young men and women of color in the pursuit of education beyond high school. Mm-hmm. And we do that two ways. One, by providing financial assistance, but two, and more important, we require our grant recipients, we call them paid scholars, we require them to serve young children kindergarten through 8th grade, specifically in the area of education, with the goal of changing how those young children they serve view education. Those young children get to see somebody using education as a tool, achieving their hopes and dreams, and hopefully acting as tutors, mentors, and role models. Those young children see somebody who maybe looks like them, mm-hmm. Who comes from their community, somebody they know, using education as that tool to make their futures better. You know, education is the great equalizer.
Absolutely.
And it allows all of us to overcome whatever circumstances we find ourselves in. And so Dwyane and I thought, and I continue to think, that the more we can do to create hope, and education does that, the more we can do to create hope, the more we can change the future in ways that will make it better and brighter than what it might otherwise be.
That's really inspiring. I want to talk a little bit about your daughter before we go to the commercial break, because she is your co-author. Mm-hmm. We didn't have her on the show tonight. So can you tell us about Kamie a little bit?
She is a 5th grade teacher. You know, over the years, I've spent a lot of time in schools and classrooms. But she's in the classroom every day working with young children. As I say, she's currently a 5th grade teacher. Mm-hmm. For, I think, the first 15, 17 years of her career, she was a 2nd grade teacher. And talk about having somebody who is an inspiration. Now, easy for me to say this because she's my daughter, yeah. But she's absolutely a phenomenal teacher.
Oh, also. That's awesome. I'm so inspired by teachers, because I got to tell you, I can't wait to push my kids into school every morning, you know, especially after a long weekend where they're up late and doing lots of things. When those teachers have to educate those children all week long, when they're jumping out of their seats and they're all hyper, I have such an appreciation for them, their patience that they have with these young minds. I think it's incredible.
Well, at the school Kamie teaches at, they had a literacy fest, and I was there throughout the day reading Baking Up Love and one of our other books, Alan and His Perfectly Pointy and Possibly Perpendicular Pinky, to 1st, 2nd, 3rd graders, middle schoolers. Teachers they're saints. They have Absolutely. The energy, the patience, and the ability to communicate and work with young children in ways that help those young children grow and develop. Mm-hmm. I don't think there are any more important people in our communities than our teachers. They're the ones that we entrust the future with.
I couldn't agree more. Well, Mr. Alan Page, I thank you so much for your time this evening. Check out Baking Up Love, a children's book about baking and love. So where can people buy this book, Alan?
They can get it ideally at the Page Education Foundation, page-ed.org.
Perfect.
But it's also available in your bookstores, online. If the bookstore doesn't have it, ask them to get it, and they should be able to get it.
Amazing.
So I should note that all the proceeds, every penny that comes in from the sale of the books, goes to the Page Education Foundation.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, Alan, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great night. Stay right there. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970. The Answer.
Okay, we're back. We were just joined by Mr. Alan Page, who had his new children's cookbook out, Baking Up Love, with his daughter Kamie. That was fantastic. But I am now joined by Chef Richard Ingraham. And let me tell you, he knows food and is renowned for showing love for others through his cooking. He is now bringing that experience to his new cookbook, Love, My Love Expressed Through Food. Throughout the book, readers will find Chef Richard's top recipes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as desserts and pantry staples like spice blends and sauces you can make ahead to have on hand at any point to elevate your meals. Chef, welcome to Culinary Confidential.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. I love a cookbook, and yours is, it's vibrant, it's diverse. I love everything that's inside of it. Now, let's talk about, before we dive super deep into the book, you're known for being a private celebrity chef. Dwyane Wade and his family, you've been preparing meals for them. That's kind of really impressive.
Thank you. Yes.
Can you give some secrets? Like, what do they like to eat?
Well, I mean, it really varies, especially now because Dwyane isn't playing anymore. When he was playing, I tried to keep it as healthy as possible. Right. But, you want to make sure that it's something that's palatable, something that he would like to eat. So for breakfast, we would do, pancakes, but instead of using whole regular flour, I would use whole wheat flour, or I would make my own flour out of raw oats, blend it up and make like oat pancakes and things like that. His wife, Gabrielle, she eats pretty healthy throughout the year. Every once in a while she'll get off of the wagon and maybe have some meatloaf or something real down home like sausage with cabbage and potatoes and cornbread, things like that, But mostly she likes to eat healthy. Yeah, I know, right?
That sounds amazing. Wait, I got to go back to this oat flour because I've never thought about doing that. I don't love to use white flour when I'm cooking, but, I do. But I guess that's a great alternative. What are you just like blending the oats until they become like powdery and floury.
That's all you do. You go and you get the old-fashioned oats, which are the big oat flakes.
Yep.
And you put them inside of your blender, and you turn it up as high as it'll go, and just blend it up until it's a powdery substance, and now you have oat flour.
Is the ratio the same as if you were using white flour?
Yes.
Okay. I'm telling you, that's happening tomorrow. That's going on the list. I never thought to do that. That's genius. I don't even feel like I've seen oat flour in the grocery store.
It's there. It's there.
So when we talk about sports nutrition, I have had people like Johnny Damon on the show, a baseball legend who was big into nutrition also when he was training. What are you kind of making when Dwyane was, actively playing? Like a lot of high protein type meals?
Yes, I did. Well, first of all, Dwyane lost between 5 to 7 pounds each game running up and down the court.
Wow.
So when he would come home, I made sure that he had lean protein. I did some carbs, but I tried to do a lot of leafy greens, a lot of vegetables. But the main thing was just to get that protein into him, because running up and down the court, that is a workout, and you're breaking your muscles down. So you need the protein to rebuild those muscles all over again so that he would be ready, especially like for a back-to-back game or something like that.
Did you travel around with him?
I really didn't. When it came time for him to be on the road, I didn't. But I did move each time he went to another city to play. So when he went and was traded to Chicago, my family and I moved to Chicago.
Wow.
And then when he went to Cleveland, he and I went to Cleveland, and my family moved back to Miami, which is where I'm from. And then when he came back to Miami, of course, I came back, and then we all moved out to L.A., and we stayed there for about 5 years. Now we live in Georgia, and I just commute back and forth to L.A. to cook for him and Gabrielle.
Oh, so you are still cooking for him. I didn't realize that.
Yes. We have another excellent chef, Chef Kevin Pratt, who does the day-to-day cooking now. And I come in to help out with the big events, the birthdays, the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, things like that. And that time has allowed me to write my second cookbook, which is why I'm here talking to you today.
I love it. This is great stuff. All right, so let's talk about Love, your new cookbook. What was your motivation behind writing it? Love.
No,
yeah.
Joking. Yeah. But no, the premise behind the book was, throughout the years, because I am a personal chef, people have always asked, Chef, where can I get your food? Are you going to do a pop-up, or are you going to ever open a restaurant? I would love to taste your food, because they see the pictures. And like I said, when I found myself having some extra time, I knew in my spirit that I needed to write a second book. And what I did was I just went back through all of my Instagram posts of all the pictures that I've taken over the years of my food. And I picked out, of course, my favorites, but some of the fan favorites as well. And the book started out as an ode to the people who support me, who have supported me via social media. But then as I started writing, it really morphed into a life story, so to speak, and something that I wanted to leave behind, not to sound morbid, but, when I pass away, something that my children and my grandchildren will be able to have and say, hey, my dad and my granddad did this. And this is the reason for all of the pictures and, the QR codes and things like that, so that they can actually see me in action. And then, it just turned into so much more.
Yeah, it's about leaving your legacy. I think that's great. Yes. Let's talk about the QR codes and why you put them in the book. Well,
I love cookbooks, but they're so boring sometimes.
Right.
There's so much reading that you have to do, and I get it. If you're doing a regional book, you want to know where the ingredients come from, but that's just not my thing. So I wanted the cookbook to be something different, something that if someone else wrote it, I would pick it up and would say, my God, this is an amazing book. So first of all, that's the reason why I have a picture for each and every recipe that's in the book. But then I said, well, what will make my book stand out? What will make it different? And I noticed that with Instagram, you get QR codes with each one of your posts. So I kind of tinkered around with it, and I said, wow, it would be amazing if I was able to take and put with some of the recipes that I have motion with me saucing it or something like that. It would be amazing for me to be able to put that QR code in the book, and that's how that happened. But then I have a story in the book of my father and I, where I'm speaking about how he loved music and myself as well, and how it has influenced my cooking. And the designer of the book said to me, well, you know what? It would be great. What about a QR code with a music playlist? So we did that. Put together a playlist, put it on Spotify, and did a QR code. So now you're able to actually download the QR code to a Spotify playlist, and you can listen to the same music that I listen to while I'm cooking.
I think that's awesome.
Now, mind you, some of the music is a little spicy. So for some of the parents out there, you may want to take a listen to some of those tunes before you play it with your children. But it's the music that I listen to that inspires me and puts a little fire in my pot while I'm getting ready to start cooking.
Like what? Tell me, what's on the playlist?
Oh, well, I have Al Green on the playlist. I have Luke Skywalker on the playlist. Rick Ross, Teddy Pendergrass.
Some of the Rick Ross, I would imagine, needs
there you go. There you go.
Parental controls on it.
Yes, I have the Miles Davis Quintet. So I'm all over the place.
You're all over the place.
I even have Johnny Cash on there. So yeah, it's an eclectic list of music, which matches my cooking style, anyways.
You know what? For your next cookbook, you should bring some of these artists into the kitchen with you. Like you should make something with Rick Ross, Ricky Rose, as he's known. That would be fun.
It would be. Yes.
So many of the stories in the book are centered around the women in your life. How have they influenced your cooking journey?
Well, they have definitely influenced my cooking journey quite a bit. Starting with my grandmother, of course, who used to come to our home for the holidays, especially for Christmas, and would spend the night Christmas Eve, and she would get up and put those huge turkeys and hams in the oven, and I would have to help her, turn the turkey or either put the glaze on the ham. My job was to actually take the pineapple circles and put them into the ham with toothpicks with the cherries and the cloves. And so I was basically the garnisher for that ham. But it did something to me. It made me, feel wanted, of course, but then it made me feel closer to my grandmother. And then there's a story of my aunt's sister who had a gambling house. And all of the entertainers, the black entertainers, would come to our home in Miami, in Liberty City, and they would play cards and drink and just have a great time. And my mother would take me over there on the days that might not be able to go to school because I was sick or something like that. And my aunt would take me fishing with cane poles, and we would catch mullets and catch catfish and things like that. And she would bring me back to the house, and she would skin the fish, fry it up, and we would eat grits and cornbread. And, I would have, she would have her beer, and I would have my red Kool-Aid, and we would just sit and talk, and just all of these different things help make up, the person that I am today in the kitchen, and just being able to bring love and the stories and just understanding that, the energy that I put into the food is the energy that is going into each and every person that I give it to or that I serve.
I love it. And we really can't talk about food much longer because you're making me hungry. Oh, my. All right. You know what? With that, let's go to commercial break. Don't go anywhere, Chef. We'll be right back. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970, The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970. The Answer.
Okay, we're back. I am joined again with Chef Richard Ingraham. He's written a new cookbook called Love, My Love Expressed Through Food. Welcome back to the show, Chef.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we did just talk about love for a good amount of time. Tell me about the other cookbook that you put out before this.
Well, the first cookbook was called Eating Well to Win, and I wrote that book while we were in Chicago, actually, when Dwyane was playing for the Bulls. I wrote that book because people were really wondering what was Dwyane eating to be the superstar that he was. Mm-hmm. So I felt that with that book, it shouldn't just be about an athlete and what an athlete eats. It's really about what you need to eat to win. And it's not a book of just eating, as I like to say, eating wheatgrass and tree bark all day with a diet. It's about eating food that's flavorful, but you just switch up some of the ingredients, like we spoke about the oat flour as opposed to the AP flour earlier when we were talking. So that's what it's about. The book was basically for the teacher that needs to get in front of the classroom, the doctor that's in the surgery room, or the CEO that's in the boardroom. You need that type of food to be able to give you the energy, that brain food that you need in order to be successful. Coming from a teaching background, I found that a lot of the students weren't doing well on these standardized tests because they weren't eating the proper breakfast in the morning. They were eating sugar-filled cereals and things of that nature. So it was also for parents who had the time to be able to prepare meals for their children so that they can have the right type of foods to give them that brain power so that they would be able to excel even better on these standardized tests and do better in school. So it was a book for everybody that wants to do better in their everyday lives.
You know what? I can't wait to have my children listen back to this show because they look at me like I'm public enemy number one when I come at them in the morning with like oatmeal and berries, or if I have like broccoli.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they make me look like I'm the bad guy. I'm like, I'm telling you, dudes, you need this so you can learn better in school. I refuse. I'm like, I'm not buying you Frosted Flakes. Like, it's just not happening.
Right.
Don't look for it. It won't be in this house. And I buy things that are very nutrient-dense foods, and I cook all the time at home for them to try to give them the proper nutrition. But, you know, they're 8 and 6. Like, they don't get it. And I don't know how to explain it to them that these are the foods you need to excel in life. Like, it's not about eating fun foods that are, you know, have chemicals in them and sugar and all these things. But I don't know what else to do. Like, it's really actually becoming a problem in my house because they look in their lunchbox and they're like, you packed me a banana again today. And I'm like, yeah, guess what? It's going to be there tomorrow too. And you'll probably get an apple the next day. I try to make it fun. Like, I'll make yogurt parfaits and things like that. But they really are just wanting some of this garbage. And I don't know how to tell it to them any other way except your brain needs these foods to learn when you're at school or when they're playing sports and things. Give me a tip on how to break this down to them a little bit better.
I mean, the same way that you're doing it, and they're not going to get it. You know, they're not. But you just have to continue to do what you're doing. I've noticed, with my students when I was teaching, because I taught on a high school level, that, I would give them fruit in the morning when they would come in and would just pump into their brains about not eating these sugary cereals because it has a high fructose syrup in it. And what would happen is it would give them this incredible high for homeroom and first period. But second period, third period, oh my goodness, they will fall asleep because they're coming down off of that high. Now you're irritable, you're missing the lesson, all of these things. And it's not just with children, because even with Dwyane, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling this story, when I first started cooking for him, oh my goodness, I would have to go through the house because he was 21 years old. He's a kid almost.
Yeah.
Go through the house. He would have Oreos, Little Debbie snack cakes, all of this stuff all hidden. He would hide it from me. And I would have to, when he would go to practice, I would search through the house and I would go and get that stuff and throw it away. But one thing that I did do, I said to him, tell me everything that you want to have and I will make it fresh.
Right.
So if I make it fresh, at least we know what's going in it. So then I can substitute whatever I want to substitute out to make it a little bit healthier than it normally would be. So even with the Little Debbie snack cakes, I would make the oatmeal cookies, I would make the filling, and then I would be able to, almost, kind of generate my own healthier portion of it. I remember once I was cooking for Manny Machado, and he wanted some chicken nuggets, and he wanted a Big Mac. So I made the chicken nuggets. I made them fresh chicken thighs, grounded them up, and I fried them up for him, nice and healthy. And then I made this Big Mac, and instead of using ground beef, I used bison, which is has more protein. It's a lot leaner.
Yeah.
Instead of using a regular bun, I use whole wheat buns. The sauce, I made it from scratch as well. So just cooking fresh foods without all of the preservatives, sometimes you have to give in a little bit. You need a little bit of sugar for this. So instead of using regular white sugar, you may want to use sugar in the raw. You could use agave. You could use honey. You could use monk sugar as well. So it's a lot of things that you can substitute in and out. So it would take you to do a little research to find out what you can substitute to make these things a little bit healthier and still give your children what they want at the same time.
I think the taste testing that you must have done to prepare some of these at-home recipes must have been fantastic.
Yes, it was. It was. It took a lot of trial and error, but, this is what I was getting paid to do. I wasn't getting paid to give them everything that they wanted, but I was getting paid to make them as healthy as possible so that they can go out and be the successful athletes that they were, so that they can, make the money and, help their families and make a better life for everybody that they love,
Maybe that's the next cookbook
seriously
for you, is taking some of these popular items and making them at home, the healthier versions. I would buy that all day long.
Yeah, that would be a good one. That would definitely be a good one.
Okay, nobody steal that. That's our thing. Me and Chef Richard.
That's our thing, correct.
What advice do you have for younger chefs or even home chefs starting out in their career?
One thing that I would say is don't take yourself too seriously.
I love that advice. That's great.
What you have to do is be willing to experiment. Food is what it is. If you burn something, go ahead and get rid of it and start over again. Start simple, work in an organized fashion, because that's one of the main reasons that people don't like cooking is because they find themselves running all over the kitchen trying to find the ingredients or trying to find the tools in order to be able to make these dishes. Whereas if you just take a little bit of time, cut your onions, cut your garlic, and put them into little piles or little sections, and then just start cooking from that, then it makes it a lot simpler. And then, just work, just practice. for the young chefs. Just practice.
Practice makes perfect.
It makes perfect. You know, all of the dishes that you see in my book, some of them, it took some practice. Things would fall over. And that's a great point, too, now that I'm speaking about falling over. When I was taking the pictures, and I actually took every one of those pictures with my iPhone, every single one that's in the book. But I would try to make them so perfect, and I would get so frustrated until one day I was doing something, I think it was with the French toast with the peaches picture that's in there. And the peaches fell over. The whipped cream wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. And I just took a picture of it, and it came out perfect. And that taught me a lesson. Let things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. And that's something that I do in life as well. I do whatever I can humanly possibly do, but then I let the universe take over after that. And it's the same thing with my cooking as well. I do everything that I can humanly do to make that dish look the way that I think it should. But if something falls a little bit over to the side, I let it go because it winds up being just what it needs to be for my client and also for myself.
Fantastic. Okay, we're nearing the end of our time together, so I just want to ask you one more thing. What are 5 pantry staples you can make ahead and keep on hand that will elevate your cooking? 5
pantry staples. You can make your own broths, your own chicken broth, your own beef broth, if that's what you like. Creole seasoning, I use a lot of that. I have that in the back of my book as well. Jerk seasoning.
What's that? Did you
seasoning.
say jerk? Jerk. I thought you said chirp. I was like, that's I've never heard of before. Okay.
Yes, jerk seasoning is another one. And then just little sauces, a little aioli, where you take mayonnaise and you add a little something else to it to make another derivative sauce.
Yeah.
And just those types of things, you know, and those things help you out in the pinch.
I think that's great. The jerk seasoning, you're putting, is it Scotch bonnet peppers in that?
You can use Scotch bonnet peppers in that.
They're super hot.
Yes, they are.
Oh my
or
goodness.
You can use jalapeno peppers, you know, to take the heat down a little bit. It's all in what you want it to be. And that's the thing about recipes. Recipes just give you a guide. You can always add or take away. Up to you. It's totally up to you and what you like as far as your flavor is concerned.
That's why I like cooking rather than baking.
Traditional things. Yeah, people get so caught up with traditional. Listen, move away from it. If you like something else, then do that. Who says it's wrong if it tastes right to you?
That's right. All right, that's Chef Richard Ingraham. He's out with his new cookbook, Love, My Love Expressed Through Food. We talked about food so much tonight. I need to get out of here and go get something to eat, Chef. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on AM 970 The Answer. Tune in next week. I'm starting a series of shows over the next couple weeks that feature a special chef each week and their culinary journey. Kicking it off is Chef Jamie Knott. He's a renowned chef with multiple restaurant concepts in New Jersey. He has so many exciting things going on. I can't wait to chat with him about it. That's the show. Thanks for listening and have a great night.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.